Story 1. Any Day Above Ground. I opened my eyes to absolute darkness and to a stale woody smell just inches from my nose. I don't remember being here, how I got here. I don't even recall where I was last. My amygdala is setting off internal alarms. I'm not in full-blown panic state yet, but I am getting there. I have a tendency to suck UMB to claustrophobia in a matter of seconds. I always have. I remember that. I turn my head left and right, but that tells me squat. I move my arm to feel around. In just a few inches, my knuckles hit wood all around me, so close. I push on the sides. The sides are so close. Hey, someone, let me out. Calm yourself, James. Calm, James. My name is James McKinney. That's a good start. This wood is so close. Right in my face. My breath bounces right back to me. Do I have enough air in here? Stop it. Stop it. Don't hyperventilate. Figure out where you are. Think. I bite my lower lip to take my attention off the panic. Grit is covering my mouth, and I spit. Well, that wasn't too bright, James. It dripped right back onto your face. I move my hand up along my body to wipe off the spit and dirt. It feels like dirt, tastes like dirt. Where the hell am I? I hear muffled voices. Hey, help me. But then they are gone. No, come back. I feel around, and the damp wood is enclosing. Free. But it doesn't do anything. What is this? Hey, where am I? I feel sick. Oh my God, don't get sick, Annie. James, don't get sick. I take a few calming breaths and talk myself down. Don't become hysterical. Now I slide my right hand back up my chest and rub my eyes. My hand swipes something long hanging above my face. Is it a worm? Bugs. Oh my God. What is it? What is it? My hand brushes it again, and I hear a faint tinkle. My fingers search for whatever the hanging thing is. It's not slimy. It's a string. A string hanging in a box. What the? Well, pull it, you moron. See what it does. I yank on it, and I hear a bell ring far away like, a string in a box with a person. I know why this is familiar. Yes, this is like those scare the shit out of you nighttime stories I read before bed. They used to bury people with a string attached to a bell just in case they weren't really dead. Someone would sit by the grave, and the person in the coffin had 3 days to ring the bell to let them know they buried an alive person. After 3 days, I guess they supposed you were actually dead as dirt, and whoop, they'd yank the string out, and well, there you have it. I wrapped the string around my fingers several times. Is that where I am? Am I dead? But I'm not dead because I am here in a box. Oh boy, here it comes. My hands are tingling. Don't think about your breathing, James, don't think. Ignore it. Don't take short breaths. In through your nose, Essie, out your mouth. Someone buried me thinking I was dead. I don't remember being in an accident. I wasn't sick, I don't think. I feel around my body. No pain. All in one piece. YW. Howl. They think I'm dead. I'm not. I pull the string again and again. I'm here. I'm alive. Let me out, please. But they don't hear me out there, and the air is getting thinner, less for me to breathe. Ha! If I wasn't dead when they put me in, I will be soon, and I start to laugh. Laughing uses more oxygen. Don't laugh, but I can't help it. I keep ringing the bell. Why do? And they hear it I can, and then I hear them again. Closer this time, clearer, tight. It's so tight in here. I pound on the sides. Hey, out there, he's dreaming. Again, doctor, he's pulling at the restraints. I'm not restrained. He's not supposed to be doing that. Give him another dose of pentobarbital and fix his earphones and keep playing that buried alive reco. Dang, his incarceration is well deserved. Incarceration, I remember now, 50 years to life. This one's not eligible for parole. Is he? I hear the doctor laugh. He laughed. That's what I was told. Wow, we'll all be long gone when he wakes up. Huh, but I'm awake and I pound on the sides. I'm here, you bet. At least my tax dollars won't be going to his cable or food, and he won't play basketball all day like he's at some resort. A buzzer goes off. Bed 735C is waking, too. Which way is that? That way. At the front of the building. No, don't go. God, I hate all this walking. Rows and rows. Rows and rows. Who thought making this warehouse so big was a good idea? All right, come with me, then. Which one is C? Top or bottom bed? Top, doctor. And this one should be back in coma state in a few. Coma state, I wait, hoping unconsciousness would kick in, and this will disappear, melt away like they promised. The stale air is suffoca. Ting, minutes pass that feel like a forever wait, and then I hear the nurse. Okay, he's out. Out, I'm not out, I'm not out, I'm still here in this box. Coma people are not supposed to think anything, feel anything. That's what I was told at sentencing after the next one. Kate, you want to grab a bite at Finnegan's? One of their juicy burgers sounds, and they're gone again. Wait, no, I yank on the bell. The more I scream, the more air I use up, less and less air. The dark is oppressive and liquid tar fills my lungs. I can't breathe. There's nothing left. Check off all the boxes that apply. I am most uncomfortable when psychological profile, my ass, Mr. McKinney, the prosecutor has given you the option to forego your prison sentence for alternative sedation, which you have taken. Congratulations. Congratulations, the judge said. Piece of cake, judge, you bald bastard. Ha, ha, ha. Hold it together. James, you restarting to lose it. Joke's on me, isn't it? They knew all along what a coma person goes through. A permanent state of elsewhere. Hold it together. You have a long way to go, James. This is my 50 years to life, 50 years in a box underground, covered in 6 feet of dirt, ringing a bell no one will hear. Oh my God, no air, no air, no air. Story 2. Keeper of eternity over the past millennium, science and medicine has advanced so far as to put miracles in the hands of men. Many of the diseases that were fatal merely 500 years ago now have cures, or at least treatments, thanks to the brilliant minds of man. That being so, there is still one fatal infirmity humanity has yet to overcome, and that's mortality. For those devoted enough, however, there is yet a way, located just off the east coast of North America. Somewhere is a shrine dating as far back as the earliest recorded civilizations. Lost to the ages now, there is but one path to this shrine, and it still sends its call, as if daring the hardiest of man to make that perilous voyage. If you find yourself in Savannah someday and think you'd like to play your hand at immortality, fly hop in your car and Continue east out of town along E. President Street and continue along it until it turns into Islands Expressway. If the forces deem you worthy, or if they're simply in the mood to watch in amusement as you throw your life away, the sky will darken with rain clouds even if it was clear and blue only moments before, and the forest about you will seem to glow. Keep our eyes peeled, and you should see a turnoff into the woods a few minutes after this happens. Now, if you're carrying a map, you'll probably notice this path is not indicated anywhere on it. But, why that no heed? Continue along the tight and densely overgrown path at a slow pace. For if you go off the road here, you'll have no hope of ever finding your way out of this forest, and no tow truck will ever find the turnoff to come retrieve you. Simply follow the path before you, for there are many bends. There are no turnoffs from this one. The trees will only grow denser as progress until the limbs scrape like fingers along the top of your vehicle. You should probably note that it would be a very bad idea to undergo this journey in a convertible. Eventually, after approximately 45 minutes to an hour of driving, you should come to a dead end where the trees tighten about you like a noose around a doomed man's neck. If you have a GPS system in your car, it will proclaim that you're about 15 miles into the Atlantic Ocean. Do not attempt to reverse at this point, for you'll find that the path is no longer there. Check your watch or your phone or your car's readout for the time, for regardless of the time of day, not a single ray of light will spill through these densely packed trees. If it is dark out, or if it will be dark out within the next few hours, do not open your door and do not turn off your headlights. You may turn off your car every so often to save gas, but you'll want to crank it up again periodic, a light to keep your battery from dying. If you let down your guard in this forest at night, you're as good as dead. If you were wise enough to start this trip early enough and it's still light out, you may exit the car at this point. You'll notice the trees around you leaning in your direction, as if peering down at you curiously. In a loud, assertive voice proclaim, "I am here to claim my fate, and none here shall stand in my way." You'll hear a sound behind you. When you turn to look, you'll notice a small path that hadn't been there before. Do not hesitate. Do not question it. Simply walk purposefully forward and start down the path before you're trapped in that clearing indefinitely. The path may wind drastically depending on which way you were facing when it was created. Simply continue walking and do not look back. No matter how loud the rustling gets behind you, you'll soon find yourself ankle-deep in a swamp, and you may find the sound of frogs croaking a soothing change from the forest lively rustling. It would be most wise at this point to find the longest, thickest branch you can, for the marshes of Georgia can hide the nastiest creatures in only a foot of water. So you'll need to feel your way along like a blind man. Only about 10 yards from the forest line, the land drops off into the ocean, and unless the forces are feeling particularly cruel, you should be able to see the log poking up out of the water right away. If not, you'll need to search, and it may take a while, but once you're near it, there's no mistaking it. Walk until you feel the ground break away beneath you, then get into the water. When you're touching the log, you'll want to take in the largest lumful of breath you can manage. Then dive under and swim to the bottom as quickly as you can. It will be a long swim, but do not turn around even if you think you're about to faint. Swim as fast as you can and keep going down, keeping a hand on the log until you come out the other side. You'll resurface in a pond in the middle of a dark forest much similar to the one we just exited. Only just at the edge of the pond will be an ancient building of indeterminable origin. Inside fires will be lit, marking your path to the shrine of the keeper. A large statue, the likeness of the keeper, will stand at the far wall, and at his feet will be an empty bowl, address the keeper in a loud, confident voice, saying, "I have come very far, and all I ask for is something to drink." His response will be a single, very personal question, and he will speak it direct, fly into your mind. So listen carefully when he has asked his question. Do not take too long to answer, and answer only in the truth. Be very precise with your answer. He will know if you're trying to hide something. Once you have answered him completely, the bowl at his feet will fill with a strange liquid. This liquid will reflect the entire rainbow's spectrum of colors, and it will bear no scent. You must drink this liquid, or you will never leave the forest alive, depending on whether or not the keeper likes your answer and deems you worthy. The liquid may be plain tap water or a lethal poison. If it is the latter, you will only know once the symptoms begin to take hold. If it is the former, you will be free to leave. The forest will part before you, showing you the exit. Much like the years will part before you, leaving you alone too. Endure the eons. You will see your family and loved ones die, and you will see wars begin and end, but you will never die. You will see the sun explode and the earth burn to a cinder, but you will never die. You will know the true meaning of eternal life. Story 3. My neighbors are disappearing. My neighbors are disappearing. I am not sure when this all started, but it seems that everyone in this town already knows. I moved here just over a year ago. It's lush with green in every direction. Townsfolk greet each other on the streets, and children play on every block and street corner. It's a perfectly stereotypical little town. I live here with my 2 little girls, Violet, who's 12, and Gracie, who just celebrated her 7th birthday last week, and, of course, our loyal watchdog, Pumpkin. He's past his prime, pushing 11 years of age now, sporting the under-eye gray hairs, and lazy but affectionate attitude that never seems to let up. My wife and I got divorced about 2 years ago on account of her selling meth out of the house for almost a year. What kind of mother could put her children in such a terrible situation like that? So when we ended up divorcing, of course I got the kids, the dog, and the house. But now we couldn't stand to live there, so we packed our things, loaded up the car, and drove out of that miserable town in hopes of finding a new home where my girls could grow up, surrounded by friendly faces and beautiful views. They deserved it after all the court dates and police interviews. When we arrived here, it was home at first sight. The girls quickly grew fond of the corner sweet shop and the small plaza with a splash pad in front. What the hell? Let's give it a shot. Our first neighbors were Samantha Brings and her 13-year-old son, Malcolm Brings. She was divorced like I was, and we got along very well. She was middle-aged and had a very attractive but motherly face with a few incoming wrinkles, but barely visible. She was quick to make a joke and always insisted we call her Sammy. Only the best get to call me that, so please wear it out, she'd say to us with a chuckle in her voice. Her son Malcolm was not as outgoing and upfront cheery as she was. He was timid and shy, but mostly only with me. He got along with my girls very well. They'd often walk to school together and back, laughing and smiling all the way. They lived there for 5 years before we moved in, and we only knew them for 3 months. I woke up to the sound of 3 dozen feet or so, walking in and out of her house, not trying very hard to be quiet even though it was 2:40 in the morning. Vanished, they told me, and not a word more. They gutted that house of any furniture, clothing, or vehicle in under an hour. I tried to get someone to explain what had happened, but it was fruitless. I stood outside her house a good 20 minutes after everyone had vacated the property, just thinking. The thinking eventually gave me a headache, so I gave up for the night and shrugged my way back home and into my bed, and after that night no one spoke a word, or even a whisper of Sammy and Malcolm. Our next pair of neighbors moved in about a month and a half after Sammy disappeared. They were a darling, elderly couple, Gida and Alvin. They've been together for over 60 years and still going strong. They had moved here from Denmark. Gida said that she had lived there since birth, and Alvin was, as he called it, the luckiest tourist. I looked at them as my long-lost grandparents. They were kind, giving, and great listeners. However, they were quite opinionated. The Y had something to say about most controversial topics. They were the type of old folk to give you a call whenever they'd hear a noise that was suspiciously too loud. But I never really minded. In my eyes they were perfect and only looking out for my family's well-being. I woke up to the blaring ambulance sirens sped down our quiet and cozy street. Passed in their sleep. A man among the 3 dozen told me they were here again, almost as if they'd gotten here right as it happened. How can that many gather at a single location so fast? It was beyond unnerving. As downright unsettling. I knew that perfect elderly couple for 7 months, by far the hardest to cope with. Now we come to my most recent set of neighbors, Casey and Donna. They were the proud parents of 5 children. And when I say proud, I mean proud. They would go on and on at dinner parties about how proud they are of their kids and what amazing accomplishments their kids have done. We didn't get along much, too show-offy for me, not to mention very competitive people, not just about their kids either. They had to outdo everyone and be at the top. Their kids were even worse. You wouldn't catch me dead talking bad of children, but these kids, they are an exception. Their youngest girl, Audrey, has been caught talking sour of my oldest, Violet, at school. That was the last straw for me, the straw that broke the camel's back. I marched my way down our porch steps, past the fence separating us, right through their lawn, and bashed on the door. They weren't happy about that, and yelled at me for almost 5 minutes before I had a chance to utter a word. When they paused, I told them fast and sternly about their child's behavior and what she had been up to at school. They weren't taking any of it. They flipped the script and made me look like the bad guy. I had had enough. I closed their own door in their stuck-up faces and marched them my way back home. From the absolute anger I felt that day. I fell asleep surprisingly quickly. I woke up peacefully. The first glimmering rays of sun were just beginning to make their journey across the cliff, and through my window the house was as quiet as it was the first night we were here. Everything was still and peaceful. I stood out of bed, stretched my toes, and lazily stumbled my way over to the window to gaze at the bright morning. Nothing, not a thing, they were gone. After one long month, they disappeared. I wasn't surprised, nor confused, or fearful. I Washington, scarcely calm, and continued about my day as normal. I already knew what had happened. I've seen it before. Something befell the family. The on cue 3 dozen townsfolk arrived and gutted the house, leaving nothing behind. Not even a crumb. Not even a crumb. I sat at my breakfast table and thought. I thought of my neighbors, their kids, their pets, what really was going on. THIS isn't just one house, it's happening too. It's every house around us. All is gone, except us. I am fearful. I speak not to the kids of my fears, of the noses I have heard, creeping through the very walls of my ungodly nightmares that have woken me only to view another missing family. The only reason I dare write any of this down is because I want this to be known. I want us to be known. It's 8 p.m. and my daughters haven't come home from school. I fear the worst. Story 4. Hole. It was your typical college setting, a lecture hall with 50 students, maybe more, on a moment a guy in the front row was answering a question from the professor, and the next, a big black sphere was hanging in the air where his head used to be. Now that was anything but typey. Cal, I was looking right at him when it happened, so I was among the first to see it. Others who hadn't been looking turned their heads to see why the guy had stopped in the middle of his sentence. Nervous chatter quickly filled the room. What is that? Do you think he's okay? Someone go get the boom. It was like static on the radio, amplified by 1,000. 100 hands clasped 100 ears. The air around the sphere distorted for a second, returning to normal as the effect moved outward, passing through the rest of the room. My entire body shook and went cold. As it hit me, the 5 closest to the sphere had been affected differently, more strongly. As mostly everyone else crowded the exits, they stood frozen in place, seemingly unable to move. One of them, a brown-haired guy in a red shirt, began shaking wildly, his mouth open, like he was trying to scream. But what came out was a high-pitched whine, adjacent to a dentist's dree. He exploded. There was a wet squelch, like someone stepping in mud, and the guy was in 100 pieces. Droplets of his blood stayed suspended around the sphere, a crimson-colored mist, before settling down to the floor. The rest of him was everywhere on the floor, on tables, on people's skin and clothing, all the way to the back of the room. One slimy chunk of skin hit me right in the face. I joined the others at the doors, but something was wrong. Someone was shouting that they were stuck, that they couldn't be open. That's impossible. There were 6 doors out of the room, 3 on this side and 3 on the other, and they couldn't all be locked. I pushed my way through and gave all 3 a try for myself, but they were key. None of them would budge. I rammed the closest one with my shoulder, but even with the terror-induced adrenaline, it wasn't enough. A handful of other students joined me. and we all threw our weight against the door at once before repeating the action. Several more times the door shuddered, but wouldn't give way. A quick glance told me the same thing was being tried on the other side of the room. To no avail. I looked back to the group of 5 positioned around the sphere. Another had gone into convulsions like the man before, a woman this time. She spun so she was facing the door and knob, and at her mouth, but no sound came out. A concentrated black beam of something did instead. Think of a cartoon robot firing a big fat laser out of its mouth, and you've got the idea. The woman turned her head, and the beam swung along the length of the far wall, passing through several people as it did so. Squelch, squelch, squelch. They exploded, one after another. Boom. Louder, now loud enough to drown out all the screams. My body rattled violently, knocking me off balance. I stumbled, and the cold hit me, like being buried in ice. It lasted several seconds longer. His time, a vision entered my mind of a black tower, piercing a blood-red sky. The tower climbed higher than I could see, incomprehensibly high. It spoke to me, its voice directly inside my head. Freedom, at last. The vision faded. I was on the floor, as were dozens of others around me. I got up and looked at the sphere. It was larger now, almost twice the size it had been when it first appeared. It wasn't just a sphere, though, I don't think. It was a gateway, and that tower, whatever it was trying to get through. One of the doors opened all at once. Students poured out of the room, myself among them. Police officers stood positioned at the sides, ready to move in, and the way was clear. Thank God they made it, I thought. Asterisk, they'll take care of this. Whatever asterisk, no, they couldn't go in there. They couldn't. This wasn't a shooter or anything like that, something they could fight. The only thing they or any of the rest of us could do. Washington S.R.U.N. I grabbed the arm of an officer standing to my left. Don't go in there, you can't, I shouted. He took my hand and gently removed it, saying something I couldn't make out. Before I could do anything else, the crowd picked me up and swept me away. Boom. The increased distance meant the impact was weaker. It felt more like the first time than the second. Some minor shaking and a sea of coal that went away quickly. I maintained my balance and kept running. Boom. Not the whole that time. Gunshots. I didn't see how the officers could think shooting at the thing would do any good. Boom, boom, boom. Someone screamed. They're shooting at us. But that couldn't be. They were the police. They were there too. In the corner of my eye I saw an officer. He stood outside, but was facing in through the window, his shotgun aimed directly at the crowd. Boom, the window shattered. One person fell, another stumbled. Blood trickled down the side of her leg. A hero whose name I may never know, leapt through the obliterated window and rushed the officer head-on. He took a blast directly to the chest and went down flat on his back. His sacrifice provided just enough opportunity for a small group to seize the officer and get him on the ground. The rest of us poured through the opening after them, out of the building and into the University's plaza. Sunlight never felt so good. Altogether, 30 people died that day. Most were students, but a handful of police officers were killed as well. Those that attacked us attacked our fellow officers as well and were killed in the ensuing shootout, meaning they can't answer questions about what happened to them. Was it the thing on the other side of the hole that C asked them to act that way, or something else? The doors were all locked. Someone wanted to keep us in that room. The building is sealed off now. I'm told the pulses have stopped, and that the hole has stopped growing. Some people think that means it's stable now, and I am inclined to agree with them. I don't agree that it's a good thing. Out of all the people that survived the incident, 10 of them have already committed suicide. The thing on the other side of the hole must be the cause of that. And if it still has that kind of influence, I can make only one conclusion. The hole hasn't stabilized because it failed to get through. It's because it already did. Story 5. Has anyone else seen it? Or am I the only one? I've done my best to research his phenomenon, if it even is one, to no avail. There is not a single dream journal in print or through the internet grapevine that can ease my unsettled heart. 2 packs of cigarettes and a house to myself are all I have each night, and the light from the screen, projecting the deepest and darkest corners of the internet, are as comforting as a polite mugging. I just need to sleep without dreams. A few years ago, my father died. He was a good Nordic man, a sailor and a veteran with a heart of gold and a liver of blackened steel. After my mother stole my siblings and I away from him when I was a child, only to bring us to our jailer of an abusive stepfather, he has been my protector, my drunken, jobless, kind-hearted saint of a father. In the last few years of the boozing haze of his life, an entire 24-pack of beer would be drained within 12 hours every day. Each night he would fall asleep with a burning cigarette in his hand and an aluminum can at his feet. Our ranch-style deer shack of a house never burned to the ground, but that would most likely be an improvement. I'm currently nestled deep in the woods, the developments of concrete jungle miles away from the original homestead. When he died, I was 23 years old. I had no family, no husband, and no morals. On my 24th birthday, on an unseasonably cold day in May, I buried him. The hasty and I had the occasion to ourselves. I've been doing drugs for most of my life, but the remainder of my money and pathetic inheritance fell into the deep hole that is cocaine addiction. A year ago, I tried to sell my couch in exchange for a couple of measly lines. Even today, I'm not far from that mess. No much longer after that, I tried to kill myself earlier in that week. Up to the attempt, I had been catching squirrels running loose in the attic and had no idea how to get rid of them. So one day, drinking a beer on the back porch, I went to the sack I had them in and tied it to the end of my black Mustang's exhaust, got in and revved the engine for the entire woods to hear. When I opened the back, the corpses were charred black, slicked with grease and grime. It was then I knew I wanted to die. I jumped into her, my black widow, the Mustang, and shut the garage door. The ignition clicked over, engine blaring in the small concrete cube of a room. I laid back with a beer and closed my eyes, not even crying, but fate, or so it seems, wants me to suffer. My father's Navy buddy, Ross, heaved the door open at the last minute, screaming Chrissy, and dragged me out, semi-conscious, into the gravel driveway. He saved my life, and after such a kind deed, he died of lung cancer 3 months ago. Fast forward too. 2 days ago, I was upstairs sleeping, and suddenly the door slams. I'm home, my father bellows. Clear as day. As certain as the keys I'm using are real, I ran, tripping every step, to the stair overlooking our door, to see nothing, just the cold and reassuring loneliness that there isn't a soul on earth that cares about me. Even my dreams have started to turn. For years, I've read scary stories. They give me a sense of power over life, a feeling of control. The words on a page that send shivers down your spine are a thrill difficult to achieve in other places. But there is very little truth in any story out there. But my dream, the dream is reality. Reality is the dream. Only in the sense that reality is the escape, not the other way around. The night of my father's voice, I slept deeply. The bed in my father's old bedroom sits in front of a closet door, but in my dream it was blocked by something. At the wooden footboard of the antiquated frame stood what looked like a man, very tall, well over 6 feet, dressed in dark colors. He wore what looked like a suit, but memory on the clothes is hard to come by. His face was very long, almost a horse-like quality, and pale. His irises were dark as well, and his expression was both blank and sinister. His mouth was extremely wide, and when he opened to speak, there were so many teeth I would certainly regret referring to him as a human being. But he never spoke, acted like he had changed his mind, and smiled. And your two-ear, wider than the Grand Canyon smile, and with that same grin, he lifted an overly long arm with bony fingers like that of a massive spider, and reached out for me. With his pointer finger out, he touched my forehead, but never actually mad. Contact with bone. Rather, the finger pushed my brain. Inside the skull, I felt as if he was informing me, touching me with knowledge. But what? I have no answer to that question. Last night the dream was similar, but he wasn't at the bed's end. He was standing at its side like a family member stands beside the hospital gurney. He leaned in close to me, the features of his smooth and pale. He face nearly translucent and corpse-like, the corpse that's been found floating under 6 inches of bathwater for days. This time he produced 2 fingers like a peace sign, and with the same terrible smile, pressed my eyes back, again never touching skin. His touch this time was cold, like having an ice cube against bare skin, only worse. On both occasions I have awoken from the nightmare with the closet door ajar, when it was clearly clicked shut each night. And thus brings me to my current predicament. The closest thing that even reminds me of my experiences come out of works of horror fiction, and certainly not legends or tales from other horrified victims. But the symptoms have been invading from the dream world more and more. I hear frantic running up the stairs in the morning, doors slamming, whispering. The closet at the foot of the bed is cold, like a meat locker, and I can't find any family photographs, and, worst of all, the sun sets in a matter of hours, and the closest hotel is 16 miles from here. Would driving through woods in the dark actually help my situation, or just be another chapter in a grisly paperback in a $5 bin at the bookstore? I'm preparing tonight with light and heat, as well as nailing the closet door shut. If I need to, the car's garage bay is open and the keys in my pocket. But I haven't been to Hillan, back to be frightened off by a figment in my own head. This is my only home, and Despite the crippling sense of being alone in the dark, I certainly don't need a friend like him. Story 6. What is dead? I write this as an apology to those who are affected by my mistakes. I hope that you can find it in your hearts to forgive me, though I will understand if you can't. My wife was terminally ill, and a few months ago she died. I was very sad at the loss, as she was a marvelous, caring woman. She was kind, and everyone that met her said their lives were better for it. I couldn't bear the pain, though, so I did something terrible. I will not tell you how I did it or how I learned to, for enough damage has been done, but I found a way to bring her back, to raise her from the dead. I could no longer bear to be alone, and I made a terrible mistake in my loneliness. When I finished the ritual, nothing happened, not at first. Anyway, I was about to rebury her when I first started to hear breathing. With an understandable measure of joy, I realized that the sound was emanating from her mouth. I had done it. At the I could not fully understand what it was, but in my blissful ignorance, I carried her home. She was not the same. She was no longer caring, but a primal, instinctive beast. She howled and screamed, snarled at me whenever I passed. I was worried and for my own sake, but for hers. She could escape. She could go out and do something to get hurt. Let the record show that it was for her own good that I locked her in my basement. I never meant to keep her that way. I never knew that my actions would set a chain reaction of unfathomable horrors into action. I kept her for as long as I could, but her screams grew more and more desperate. I was chilled to my very core by the screams of my betrothed, and before long I stood on the rain-slick precipice of insanity. Why, I needed to do something. As it so happened, I was not the only one to hear the screams. My neighbors began to show interest, eventually sneaking onto my estate to snoop around. I caught them in the act, and as I had no explanation for what they may have seen, I attacked them. I didn't kill them, but they were unable to leave of their own accord, and, as I feared the consequences of letting them go, I locked them in the basement with my wife. This was my second mistake, the first, of course, being that I raised her in the first place. That night I knew the sound of crunchy bone. Upon my awakening in the morning, I went down to check on the neighbors. One was gone. The other was wide-eyed, cowering in a corner and covered in blood. Something else was off, too. Oh, at first I did not know what. Then it hit me. The screams had subsided. My wife was asleep. She had fed, and now she slumbered. All this time the screams were of hunger. I shut the door and went to lie down. She lasted a few more days, obviously feasting on the other neighbor. It seemed that she only needed to eat once every few days. Now, I'm not proud of what I did next, but I didn't know what else to do. I went out at night every few days, around the time that only a few people would still be around. I stalked the streets and attacked people who walked alone. I would take them back to my wife and leave them in the basement. I would often wake from my slumber to hear their screams, cries for help. This would always rouse the beast and would never last longer than a minute or so. About the deaths of so many and my actions that rob so many of loved ones of closure. How many torn and blooded rags did I have to burn, and how many personal effects were destroyed by my hands? I lost track of the numbers, but surely even one is too high a number. I was kept awake the its screams, and it shall henceforth be he referred to as it, for I have come to the conclusion that this monster is not my beloved. So I fed it, a night of rest for the lives of so many. Day by day it grew stronger, its strength either increasing or returning. For I know not what horrible beast is now in possession of my wife's body, and as time went on I was forced to bring home more food. Bigger people, men, 2 women, a woman, and a man. Eventually it was eating a full-grown man every day. I knew. In some dark corner of my mind I knew that this could not go on forever. I could not keep taking people. I was in danger of being caught. H.D. and, though I deserved to be, fear took hold of me, and that, I suppose, is why I let the charade go on for as long as it did. So I decided to flee. I had just packed my bags when I heard a knock on my door. The police had found a trail of blood leading through the woods up to my estate, and were inquiring as to whether I'd seen or heard anything suspicious. I managed to keep a cool head and talk my way out of what could have potentially been a very unpleasant situation. I know not why, only that I deserved it. It began to scream. It screamed louder than I had ever heard it scream before, and it sounded mad. The police instantly drew their guns and went in, thinking perhaps some horrific predatory beast had made its way into my home. They eventually found my basement door and threw it open. Slowly, ever so slowly, they descended the stairs. I was at a loss for what to do. So I did the only thing I could think of in the heat of the moment. I shut the door. Throwing the bolt across, I ran to my quarters and grabbed my bags. Making for the door, the screams of the police haunt me to this very day. I heard the sound of splintering wood as that thing burst out of its cell. It was now loose in the house. I ran as fast as my legs could carry me out of there, out into the streets of the town I had stalked, into a train, and I left that place. Far behind, my old home is a ghost town now, splashed with blood, yet no bodies remain. How I long to return to my estate, to gather up all of my research and burn it, so that this might never happen again. I have made many an attempt to do so. In fact, though every time I get near I hear that beast's wild howls, screaming for flesh, I know it haunts my home now, I know it. Where's my wife's skin? But the worst part of all this, since they're getting older, we've been splitting the responsibility of caring for the property. I go down there by myself a few times a year to get away from the city and check up on the place. I usually stop in Greaser because they have gas, a grocery store, and a little park where I can stretch my legs if I need to. I have the next couple days off work and decided to spend them at the cabin, so I packed up and left town. Everything was completely normal until I stopped in Greaser. I pulled off the highway a little after 3 o'clock and went to the park, thinking I'd go for a walk before getting some food. Nothing was out of the ordinary at first, but as I crested the first small hill, I saw a woman with a stroller blocking the path. She was looking at her phone, unperturbed by the harsh sunlight beaming down on her. I approached her with trepidation. I found it strange that she'd choose to text there, instead of in the shade of the pavilion to her left. Maybe she was having an intense conversation via text. I tried to quash the more worrisome thought. Maybe she's on drugs. I tapped her on the shoulder. "Everything okay, ma'am?" I asked. The woman didn't look up. She didn't even seem to realize I was there. I went to pass her on my left side when I saw the baby and stopped. It wasn't moving. Its face was bright red, and chubby little arms lay listlessly against the navy fabric of the stroller. Orange-yellow vomit, long since dry, crusted around its mouth and down, and its shirt. Oh my God, my voice trembled. That child was dead, I was sure of it. She was standing out here on her fucking phone, and her baby was dead, and she didn't even seem to notice. Gingerly, I reached out and tapped its hand. It was warm, but not as warm as a living human should be. The woman snapped her head towards me, and I jumped. She pressed her lips into a soft, vague smile. I smiled back, hoping it would dispel the confusion I felt. "You're so pretty," she cooed at me. My smile faltered. Before I could respond, she pointed her phone at me. I saw the minute movements of her thumb pressing down on the shutter button. I held up a defensive hand and tried to keep my voice calm, but urgent. "Ma'am, you should move to the shade. I'm going to call an ambulance." She released her hand from the stroller and started to walk towards me, still holding out the phone. "You're so pretty," she said, moving around to get different angles. As she got close, I noticed something was wrong with her pupils. One was the size of a pinprick, while the other was fully dilated. I started taking steps backwards. I was officially frightened. "Let me take your picture," she cajoled. "Mum, please, can I use your phone to call for help?" I couldn't help it. My voice trembled. The sight of that poor little thing in its seat, unresponsive, broke my heart. I cursed my decision to leave my phone behind. This woman was clearly having a mental health crisis. Her face twisted into an ugly scowl. "Let me take your picture, S.H." He growled. She started walking towards me, then jogging, her phone still extended in her outstretched hand. I started to run, no longer interested in mediating this problem alone. She yelled after me, "Let me take your picture." I sprinted back down the path, digging for my keys as I went. I yelped when I felt nails dig into my shoulder. When I turned around, the woman grabbed my throat. It took a minute to realize that she wasn't trying to choke me. She was trying to hold me still. She centered her phone right in my face and began mindlessly hitting the shutter button again. I took as deep of a breath as I could. Then I seized the phone. I don't know where everyone else is, but it's hot as fuck in Arkansas right now. So her hands were sweaty, and the phone left her grip easily. With a terrified cry, I threw it as hard as I could. The woman's eyes widened in shock at the thwack of the phone hitting the asphalt. She began to wheeze, inhaling sharply through her nose and exhaling in loud gasps. Her hands curled into claws, and I swear I saw her skin start to go gray underneath the pink tinge. She let out a shriek. I flinched. She sounded exactly like the coyote calls that sometimes echoed through the trees at night. Then, to my surprise, she released me and hauled us towards the phone. Stunned, I froze for a moment before jumping into my car. I pulled out of the parking lot and away from the woman, who had fallen to her knees next to the shattered phone. I tried to call 911 as I drove, but I kept getting voicemail. I was relieved to see a cop car parked in a diner parking lot up the street. Getting out of the car, I approached the cruiser. "Officer, there's a woman in the park with a baby." A burst of static drowned out the end of my sentence. Voices from the cops' radio. I could make out snippets. We need backup. EMTs en route. Not responding. Need. I listened, the churning in my stomach getting worse every moment. The officer leaned out of the window and smiled at me. "You're so pretty," he said. I started to back away. "Let me take your picture," he repeated. Unable to speak, I shook my head. The noise from his walkie stopped, replaced by a clear, male voice. "Let me take your picture." What sounded like an explosion crackled through the device, followed by screams and shattering glass. A few seconds later, the original sound rumbled across the parking lot. I looked in the direction of the sound and saw a pyre of smoke rising into the cloudless blue sky. The cop got out of his car, soft smile on his face, phone pointed at me. "Let me." I didn't let him finish. I ran to my car and got the hell out of Quiser. I drove a few miles down the road and stopped at the truck stop where I am now. So, can someone please help me get in touch with the authorities? 911 still isn't answering, and I really don't know what else to do. I can't get the image of that baby out of my head. Even worse, although it might just be paranoia, whenever I catch a glimpse of myself in a reflective surface, I can't help but think I'm so pretty I should take a picture.